Now let's take you there.
Makaya, stop making eyes at my DDG. Okay. We've made it a requirement from ourselves to brief you every time we're back home, to indicate what we have been doing, because we're largely outside the country, and also to brief you on what our program for the coming month is. This one is going to be a particularly long one because, as you know, we had our most hectic time this past month, and I will brief you on a number of issues. I'll brief you on the peace summit that we had on the 24th in the United Nations. I'll brief you on UNGA itself and our perceptions of what was going on there. I am going to brief you on the upcoming BNC with the DRC, and I am going to brief you on our attendance as observers to the United Nations Security Council for the first time. And I will then brief you on FOCAC, which we had in September, and we have not been able to brief you about it. I'll be able to brief you on the heads of mission, which we have every year, or every time there's a new person? Every time there's a new person, okay. And straight after an election. We're bringing them back because we want to reorientate them around what it is that we would like to change in the department, what our policies are, what we stand for. And also we would like to brief you on the upcoming investment summit and our role in that investment summit. The Deputy Minister will brief you on TICAD, and the Deputy Minister Landers and Deputy Minister Mhaule will brief you on that ox wagon that we have sent to Lesotho. That's the rate at which it is making progress. Or am I wrong, Deputy Minister? She will brief you on their work in Lesotho, and the Deputy Minister Landers will also brief you on our work in IORA. We have quite a lot, and we have prepared some packages for you so that if your specialty is to cover foreign relations, which I hope some of you have created a niche for, you'll be able to refer to those matters in your package. At the last meeting here, we indicated to you that we would be going to the United Nations. We were very excited about it because it would have been our first opportunity as a new government to take part in the deliberations of the UN General Assembly. It was foregrounded by the Peace Summit, which we had requested of the United Nations, and in a form of a declaration. The declaration that we put before the United Nations General Assembly was unanimously adopted, that on the 24th of this month, of last month, we shall have a whole day peace summit in the General Assembly, and we would dedicate that day to Nelson Mandela, and we would ask all who would like to speak to have their space on the podium. In all, we have counted that the people who wanted to speak out of the heads of state were 156, so we are still counting how many of them did speak. We will be preparing for you a brochure on the speeches that were given, because they were simply out of this world. Simply out of this world. The recognition and that has been given to Nelson Mandela by the leaders of the world is something that South Africans need to know about. We need to circulate the document so that people understand what it is that we have. Sometimes proximity makes something not as important as it should be, but when you see it from the way that other people see it, then you begin to understand the impact we have had in the world. I think the most important thing, apart from the leaders of the world speaking about Nelson Mandela, was the fact that we were able to donate a statue to Nelson Mandela, which is in a very prominent place at the UN General Assembly hallway. and we were able to unveil it just before the Peace Summit. And this is the first time that the United Nations has allowed a gift of a full-bodied person in the form of Mandela. He is captured by the same professor artist who has put up the statue outside the Union building, and he has his arms outstretched in the way he does when he is greeting. He has his arms outstretched in the way that you would do when you are preaching peace. I'm told that Trevor Noah, thinking that he's clever, silly boy, says this about Mandela, that look, you know, everybody's saying he understands that he is in the U.S. and in New York, and he understands that being black, the first response you have is, I have no gun. Now, this is just an exaggeration. He is out, his hands are outstretched like this, welcoming the world, welcoming them to the General Assembly, and welcoming them to his world of peace that he has helped to create. We had a very good session there, and we would like to use this opportunity to thank all of those people. The President has already thanked those that were available for the cocktail, to thank the world for the privilege of hosting the Peace Summit, the privilege of listening to them as they spoke about our President. We would like to give South Africans the privilege of hearing what the world has to say about Nelson Mandela. Thereafter, immediately thereafter, on the 25th, we had our United Nations General Assembly, and we have a woman who is the President of the General Assembly, and it was very good to see women in that particular post. And I thought I'd see women here clapping for that. She's from Venezuela, and it was good to have her there. Opening the session, the Secretary General spoke very passionately about the need to work together to make sure that we create a platform for multilateral focus on the world, and only in that way would we be able to perform the role for which the United Nations was established. It was a very passionate plea for support from the world to work together with the United Nations at all times. Then thereafter, heads of state spoke. Our president spoke, and he was beamed live to South Africa, I believe, so we don't need to go to that. I thought it was a very good speech. He touched on a number of very important things, amongst them the youth, amongst them women, and the program that South Africa is adopting to make sure that we are part and parcel of the world, and part and parcel of carrying the torch of peace to the world. We have had the occasion to thank the Secretary General and the President of the United Nations General Assembly for the honor that they have given us. We have since moved Madiba from where he was originally, because only heads of state use that hallway. We have now put him where the common people like you and I can see him. And he looks beautiful. You would have heard that there are some complaints about his hair. And I had a discussion with the artist, and the artist says we used bronze. Bronze lasts forever. And bronze doesn't have hair like this, you know. You put bronze on my hair, it would go completely flat. So we have to accept that. But the man is Madiba himself, as you know him. And he stands very tall. And everybody who walks into the United Nations wants a picture of Madiba. So if you were to scan Facebook, internet, you'd find that everybody who goes there wants a picture of him. And that is a very good way of actually spreading the message that the man represents to us. We then had the opportunity, the day of Monday the 1st, to attend the UN Security Council, of which we will be members starting in October the 1st. And the reason why we attended is we attended as observers, because that was a day on which the program of action for the year was unfolding, and it was adopted by the political heads representing various countries there. I had my first opportunity to be in the UN Security Council, and I was amazed that there were no fist fights. I always imagined that somehow there are two sides there and words blowing from one end to the other. There was a great deal of collegiality, and I'm hoping that as we enter that space, we will also be able to add our voice from the African continent. We're extremely honored that again we are given the opportunity to be in the United Nations Security Council. We will be going there from time to time as and when we believe that there's an important matter being discussed, but we are still observers. At the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, we met with a number of leaders of the world, and normally it is used to deal with this matter. But there were a number of other high-level meetings that were running alongside. IPSA was the core of IPSA was meeting alongside these the meetings of the United Nations General Assembly. BRICS was meeting on along the sidelines of this, and basically we were able to cover a lot of ground in the time that we were at the United Nations. Very draining experience. We returned. I want to go back a little before we went to the United Nations General Assembly. This is something that has gone completely unreported, and I'm not surprised. In Canada, about 2 days before I flew to New York, we had the first meeting of women foreign ministers meeting in Canada, in Montreal, hosted by the Foreign Minister of Canada. It was the most exhilarating moment to find so many foreign ministers who are women. And we concluded that actually the world is in a better place in the hands of women. The issues that we discussed ranged from how do we bring up our girl children to understand their value in the world, to issues around Syria, how do we help the people of Syria to find their way into normal life, and how do we help the people of Palestine feel supported? How do we provide them with the necessary support? What do we do with the huge migration from especially those war-torn countries into Europe? Because we also realize that Europe is not ready for the numbers of people who are migrating into Europe, and we're very concerned particularly about the women and the children who are caught up in these situations. We took a photo of the women in charge of foreign relations, and I'm surprised that Mabaya has not circulated it. He would have circulated it if it was a picture of leaders of the world, if them being men. But we had an even more important meeting in Montreal, and we as women worked out how do we change the discourse at international level, because we believe that women have a particular value system that would be able to take away the aggression from discussions and bring in a new kind of voice into the world. Before that, on the 4th of September, we attended FOCAC, as you all know. Most of the African countries that were invited attended, and the topic of FOCAC was towards an even stronger China-Africa community with a shared future. Most of the time was dedicated to bilaterals with the Chinese government and the central state in China. We had the opportunity to go and visit them before we went to dinner. Now, I have seen in the media, social media, pictures of us sitting there with no papers in front of us, and the governors of that particular province. What's the province? What was the province? What's the central province called? Guangzhou. It would be like people who are coming into South Africa going to visit the province of Gauteng and passing their greetings to Paul Mashatile, the Premier of Gauteng, Makura, and his team. Now, we would have known that we're seeing the council of that particular province. They would not have known, because they had 53 heads of state with their delegations coming in. So they had in front of them all the particulars. We're now seeing the government of South Africa, and these are the people who are there. So that is why they had those files in front of them. And the narrative that is running that we were there, the Chinese were very prepared, and we went there with our heads hanging around our sides as though we had come for a picnic. We were actually on our way to a state banquet. But we had a very good time in China, a very productive 2 days there. It started off with a ministerial, and I was co-chairing with my counterpart, Minister of State in China. And we had a very good response from the African people who were there, indicating what it is that they expect from their interaction with China and what it is that they have found does not work in their interaction with China. Thereafter, we had a round table of heads of state who were indicating to the Chinese what it is that they would like support with and what it is that they would like changed in the nature of the arrangement that we have. In all, there were 47 heads of state, and President Cyril Ramaphosa was co-chairing with President Xi Jinping the heads of state roundtable. During the summit, we relinquished our co-chairpersonship of FOCAC, and we handed it over to Senegal, and very sad to do that because we enjoyed our time as co-chair, because it's a very invigorating environment to be out of the continent and yet concentrate on the issues of the continent. More on FOCAC if there are any questions there. On regional issues, the Deputy Minister will be discussing with you, should there be any question about how far we are on the issue of the reforms in Lesotho. The last time I met with you, I indicated that we had taken a very strong step at SADC, that we would like this matter of peace and signing on the peace by the people by the parties in Lesotho to be fast-tracked. And should we find that any are not abiding by the requirements of fast-tracking this, we will impose the necessary censure around travel to South Africa or through South Africa on those we believe are not adhering to the spirit of creating peace and harmony in Lesotho. We are overseeing and supporting the elections in Madagascar, in the Cameroon, and in the DRC. The elections in Madagascar are happening in a few days' time. DDG, on the 7th of November. On the 7th of November, we have elections in Madagascar, and we will be assisting them. We will also be sending observers there, and we hope that it will be a peaceful solution to a long-standing problem in Madagascar. The people of Madagascar deserve peace, and we would like to make sure that they do get peace after this election. We will be visiting the DRC because we have a binational commission there, which starts on the 13th of October and culminates with a heads of state signing off on the agreements that we would have reached on the 16th of October in Kinshasa. And you can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and on our media page in the DRC. We will be expecting our heads of mission to come back, and their first day in South Africa will be the 20th of October, 21st, how can I forget the 21st? They'll be starting off their conference on the 21st of October, and we will be engaging with them on a whole range of things, what it is that we would like to change about the department, what it is we would like to retain about the department, what policy trajectory we are taking, and I think the media will be invited afterwards so that we can brief the media. The media was invited to a workshop that we had with the panel. You will remember I indicated to you that I have established a panel in the place that I found had been occupied by a review committee called SACOA. Their term of office had come to an end, and I took the opportunity to appoint a panel. This panel consists largely of people who have extensive experience in foreign affairs, and they have two people attached to them in the panel who serve as a secretariat. One of them is Titus Mafule, The other one is Tammy, I can't see him, and Tammy. In case the Sunday Times is here, let them get the true story and not pick up gossip from untested sources. They have put together the work that they have been doing, extensive work that they have been doing, and they called a workshop. And the workshop, I'm told, was fireworks. If any of you were invited there, you would attest to that. But if any of you were not invited there, then we will make an arrangement the next time, especially when they are reporting to heads of state, to heads of mission. We will make it possible for you to listen to what they're saying. When you have two academics in a room, you can expect a bonfire. We had more than our fair share of academics there. But it's very good to have this kind of feedback about what it is we're doing, whether they think we're going in the right direction, whether they think we're not going in the right direction. So we use this opportunity, and it was an extremely good workshop. And I'd like to thank Tammy and Titus and Dr. Horton there, who were very hard at work to make sure that this is a success. It was a very successful engagement. We've also been having a number of workshops in the department, especially focusing on women and peace. This is a very important aspect of our work, and this is exactly what it is that we would like to put, apart from the issues of peace, we would like to foreground women in peace, because we believe that when women are involved in peace, in the creation of peace, the peace lasts longer. And we've had 2 or 3 sessions here at the department. DDG Joini headed those, and we will be able to send it out on the media that we are putting women first. We will be having a foreign policy review workshop after the one that we had with the public on our own before we meet with heads of mission. I could go on to indicate what it is that we have done. However, I need to move on and indicate to you that this month we will be going to ITAC, which is hosted by Russia, and we will also be attending. No, you've already attended the TICAD. I think most of what we will be doing this month is in-house and dealing with the heads of state and any other outstanding matters there that follow. I wanted to keep this briefing short so as to allow you to ask questions so that we are able to respond to those questions. And if you should have questions on Lesotho, the Deputy Minister is here on horseback. Should you want any questions on IORA and TICAD, our newly recruited Japanese Deputy Minister will be able to respond to those questions. I'd like to stop there and take your questions. Thank you. Mabaya, do you want to come and take your position here? Because this is a perilous place to put the mic.
We will also take the mic.
We will take questions, just the media house and where we know almost everybody who is here. When we start, yes.
Hi, good morning, Minister and your team.
Have you got a mic with you?
The mic people must also wake up a bit. The hand is up, the mic must meet the president.
Hi, Madam Minister and your deputies. It's Kylie Kumalo here from ENCA. Minister, you just touched on the DRC, saying you're going for the BNC and other agreements and stuff. Mm-hmm. I just want to understand, in light of the upcoming elections, have you perhaps had any engagement with authorities in terms of assistance, given the fact that we've seen quite very concerning issues with some candidates being barred from running. But also, apart from that, Madam Minister, another very domestic issue within the SADC. With regards to Zimbabwe, have you had any interaction, given the very economic issue, in light of the stabilization program that has had opposite effects? Thank you.
Minister, will take that one.
Yes. Insofar as Zimbabwe is concerned, we stand very ready at all times to assist the people of Zimbabwe. We've had a very long-standing relationship with the people of Zimbabwe from the time we're in struggle, and at any time that they need our assistance, they are able to request our assistance. We would not be able to go to Zimbabwe and say, here's a bag of whatever and you will have it. I think international relations depend on reciprocity. As and when Zimbabwe requests our support in anything, we will be able to provide them with that support fully. We wish the people of Zimbabwe well. It's a country that we regard as a friend, and we would like some stability there. We would like the economic reforms that have been put in place to succeed there. So if there is a request from us, we would be only too happy to assist. The DRC, the Binational Commission has been on our calendar for a very long time, and we needed to ensure that we have it before they have the elections. And the date that was suggested when we were in the DRC was end of October, and we've since shifted it end of November. I think we've since brought it forward to October 13 to 16 to give them enough time to prepare for the election.